We in the building. Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I'm just kind of sitting here. I don't have no papers. I don't have no notes. I don't have nothing. Today was a miserable, sucky Sunday. My power was off. It went off at like 3 in the morning. It didn't come back on till 1 in the afternoon. I spent most of the day defrosting. It was cold as a witch's heart in this damn house, okay? It was awful. It was miserable. I couldn't stand it. So I have nothing. I didn't plan anything either. But I still, at the last minute, I was trying to patchwork something. But I didn't have time to put it together. Maybe we'll come back to it some other time. So, what are we going to talk about today? The answer? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I figure we might do um, maybe a mishmash of political topics, or maybe if you guys have got something you want to talk about, you bring it in. I always got articles put to the side that I'm supposed to read. Maybe I'll read them later, and I never get around to them. So I always got stuff, but it ain't always stuff that I had planned on actually doing anything with. It might just be stuff that I wanted to read. And I could always just turn some of that into a video. And I considered doing that. And as I was considering doing that, I decided not to do that. but, I do have, I got plenty of articles. What's up, Lights? How you doing, brother or sister? However that goes. I have attended quite a few wrestling events live. The best one being WrestleMania 23. I have a soft spot in my heart for that show. I was in the building when it occurred. There's nothing like being in a building for WrestleMania. Nothing. I mean, it's a very special thing. Even if you are a non-wrestling fan, being in the building for WrestleMania is special. All right, so I'm still searching as I chat for something, and most of my uh, Twitter account that I'm seeing so far is people being upset about Trump supposedly getting arrested. This incredibly terrible match between Britt Baker and Anna Jay. Neither one I really have any interest in discussing. Both of them, I really don't care. It's interesting. Light says WrestleMania 23 is the first Mania I watched. Well, congratulations. You started on a good one. The first WrestleMania I ever watched, WrestleMania 8, I think it was. I think I'm in the first one I actually sat down and watched. WrestleMania 8 is okay. It is pretty good. But the main event is sour. Pretty damn sour with the Sid Hogan main event over the title. That makes no sense. But that's where we were in 1992. It was goofy. Why would they do that? I don't know. But they did it. So it is what it is, man. But yeah, I watched WrestleMania 8 as a kid, which is after the first Royal Rumble I've seen. You know, I saw Royal Rumble 1990, but I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. And I really kind of didn't understand that WrestleMania was a bigger show until like 2 years later. But we eventually all caught on, right? So what else is up? Who else is listening? What up, Top Dog? How you doing, brother? How's it going? I'm sitting here trying to jam together something. I watched the first Purge. I watched that movie. I had no intention of doing a review of it, so I didn't take any notes. But I like the Purge franchise. Typically speaking, I like the idea where the threat is omnipresent and the threat could be from anywhere. Because it could be any type of personal vendetta that one day a year somebody's finally going to, uh, clean your clock for you being a jack off all year. And they just wait until this one specific day where it's legal for them to blow your goddamn head off and they gonna do it. So I I watched this movie because I had never seen it before. I had never seen the last two Purge movies. I had never seen the first Purge, and I had never seen the Forever Purge, but I've seen the other ones. Um, Interesting franchise. You could do whatever you want with that franchise. They choose to be ridiculous with it. The first Purge was kind of dumb. It was kind of a dumb movie. Um, it was kind of dumb. Darren Miles says he was broke, so he had to wait for the results on Raw. That's unfortunate. I was broke too. When I went to WrestleMania 23, man, I was in the nosebleeds. I'm talking about I was so high up, I could see shadows moving around in the ring, and that's all I really needed to see because I could still tell what was going on. But being in the building, being around that energy, it's different. Like it's like getting caught in a whirlwind. I remember walking up to Ford Field. It was like you went from um it's like you went from black and white to color. It's like you went from regular wrestling fan to super nerd dork wrestling fan. And it happened really quickly. And next thing you know, there's people driving around Ford Field blasting CM Punk's theme song. They got the shirts and everything. They had drove up from Chicago to make noise for CM Punk, man. And he was a big deal at the time for the people who were, who cared about him. I don't think he was in a Money in the Bank match at, that WrestleMania. I don't think he did anything major. Or was he part of one of the ECW versus the New Breed or whatever the hell match? He was doing something that wasn't all that interesting, but he had a lot of fans there. And I kind of underestimated how many fans he had. I also underestimated the amount of cosplayers that was going to be there. Hella Undertaker cosplay, hella Shawn Michaels and John Cena cosplay. But what really enchanted me was how many people listened to the theme songs and was like singing Batista's theme song in the parking lot. Like that's a whole different ball game. Like they screaming, "I walk alone" in the parking lot. Like nobody's doing that today because what songs get people like that? In the parking lot. Not too many theme songs are even good nowadays, let alone, important. The Davey Richards accusations. Like, what is there to talk about, really? He got accused of domestic violence. Some people heard about it. They started firing him, and people cut ties with him, so he retired. He basically canceled himself. He took himself out of the pool. He said he didn't do it, but he knows that saying that he didn't do it is not enough in today's world. So he just basically says, "I'm done. I'm retired." How many of y'all know that Crimson got arrested? Let's talk about that because that's one of those articles that I had just sitting around. And so while I let some of the chat catch up, so I have some things to talk about, let's just talk about Crimson getting arrested. This just so happened I have this on the side. So Anthony Mayweather, aka Crimson, arrested for violating order of protection, March 13th, 2023. Anthony Mayweather has been arrested. As reported by Diamond Cooper of Clarksville today, Mayweather, formerly known as Crimson, has been arrested for violating an active order of protection. According to the report, police conducted a welfare check on February 24th, and they learned that Mayweather made several calls to his son's phone and sent multiple texts to his wife. I guess they meant texts, but it's tests in the article. Heather Mayweather. A warrant was consequently issued for his arrest, and he was booked into a Montgomery County jail on March the 8th. His bond has been set at $1,000. Mayweather was previously taken to jail for headbutting his wife in 2016. Mayweather is a former TNA Tag Team Champion, a former NWA National Champion. He last wrestled for the NWA November 2022. He headbutted his wife 6 years ago. What an asshole. What an asshole. See, the thing is, the Davey Richards stuff, it came out of nowhere. And who the hell knows anything? Like, there's no public records yet. He came out and admitted what was going on. But this thing seems pretty serious. So this from the Root article. I'm sorry, from Clarksville Today. 38-year-old Anthony Mayweather was jailed for violating an active order of protection. Police conducted a welfare check on February 24th. Blah, 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 blah. All the same stuff we already read. Said Anthony Gregory Mayweather of, they got this. Oh, this near his address. 4th Avenue Inn in Nashville was booked into the Montgomery County Jail March the 8th. Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, like his career is over. Now, he barely had one, but it's over. It's for sure over. Both of these guys, Davey Richards, his career is over. Crimson, his career is over. You can't bounce back from DV. That's one of the things you can't bounce back from. That and rape. Can't bounce back from that. There's nothing you can do, brother. So since y'all brought up Davey Richards, let's go to the PW Insider article about him. So we talked about Anthony Mayweather getting arrested. His career is over. Davey Richards, his career is also over. It says, as noted earlier, several promotions have severed ties with Davey Richards. Richards issued the following statement to PW Insider via email, acknowledging there are, quote, allegations of domestic violence against him. Richards is denying them, but also announced he was retiring from pro wrestling. Richards' entire unedited statement reads as follows. Hello, everyone. What a couple of days. There are allegations of domestic violence against me. The allegations I adamantly deny, and if you look on CaseNet in Missouri, under my name, Wesley David Richards, you'll see there are no charges filed against me. However, I do understand the industry's stance on this matter. Everyone should feel safe at shows, and I do not want to be a person who damages that. The pic being posted of my wife's eye is from training, and we regularly train in martial arts, as well as many of the students have got black eyes and such. Again, no charges were ever filed against me, and I deny these allegations, but I must do what is right and not what I want. So I am canceling myself. The great sport is far too wonderful for anyone, including myself, to tarnish it. I will wrap up my shows this weekend, and I will be retiring from professional wrestling. Please continue to support Team Ambition and this sport, Davey. So this is they were training in martial arts and she got a black eye. Look, there's no doubt that could have happened. Okay? I'm not going to call the guy a liar because that could have happened. But and look, we have seen female wrestlers and mixed martial artists before. They'll get a black eye or injury from something else. And then because we, people on the outside, don't know what happened, then we're in a situation where, hey, we don't know when this black eye occurred. It could have been 10 years ago. It could have been 5 years ago. But if she just posts a black eye and say, my husband hit me, we have to believe it because she has evidence. Chris Dickinson, Biff Busiek, whatever happened to them? How long are we going to punish these people for accusations that haven't been confirmed? This is from AJ3. Chris Dickinson actually tried to sue the girls, and I think that ended up falling through. I don't believe anybody. I don't think it's hard to sue women, because they're women, and we can say that the justice system is blind and all that. No, they see women. And when you try to sue women for the accusations against them, man, that don't work. It don't work. It very, very rarely works for you to actually be able to successfully sue a woman for lying about you, because just the act of suing her makes you a villain. And here it is. The judge dismisses Chris Dickinson's defamation lawsuit against domestic abusers. It says earlier this week, this will be in December 2022. This is from David Bixenspan, so take it with a grain of salt. But he's usually really good about at least sourcing the work. It says a federal judge in District of New Jersey formally dismissed a defamation lawsuit that former New Japan Strong and Evolve wrestler Chris Dickinson, real name Chris Torre, had filed against two of his ex-girlfriends in July. News of this dismissal was first reported by PW Insider. In April, Christina Von Eerie, a veteran independent wrestler, and Michaela Coulter, who worked behind the scenes on the independents, came forward on Twitter with statements alleging that Dickinson was both emotionally and physically abusive during their relationships. Dickinson responded by claiming defamation in his suit. Dickinson's case was dismissed on jurisdictional grounds, as Dickinson filed the lawsuit in New Jersey, where neither he nor the defendants live, attempting to use the state's role as the home base of GCW and an indie hub in general to assert that it was the correct place to file. It's notable that unlike the states where each of them lives, New York for Dickinson, California Von Eerie, and Massachusetts Coulter, New Jersey does not have a law in place to prevent what has become a strategic lawsuit against public participation, or SLAPS. The assigned judge did not say much beyond seconding the November 30 recommendation that had been made by a magistrate judge consulting on the case. Strategic lawsuits against. Yes, I remember what a SLAP law is now. Okay, I was sitting there looking at it like, what the hell is that? Okay. Here's the. You want to continue going through this? Let's continue going through this, I guess. Since the dismissal of New Jersey not being the correct location for the suit, Dickinson has had the ability to refile it in a proper jurisdiction within the statute of limitations. However, there's reason to believe he won't. Noted in the magistrate's report, the judge told all parties on November 21st that since none had addressed the issue of transferring the case in any of their filings, they all had a week to address the issue if they desired. None did so. So each woman created an affidavit. Said Von Eerie's exhibit to her affidavit was a time-stamped photo that she claimed showed physical injury at Dickinson's hands, while Coulter's affidavit included Instagram direct messages with Dickinson where he wrote, "I would never put my hands on you ever," before contradicting himself with saying, "I'm sorry I pushed you into the wall. I'm fucking sorry." In Dickinson's opposition to these motions to dismiss, his attorney did not dispute their authenticity, only claiming that both were irrelevant to the New Jersey filing location. Very unfortunate. I like Chris Dickinson. Very, very unfortunate. But again, women can do whatever they want. You can do whatever you want when you're a woman. Here's the thing about these SLAP laws, right? So for those of you who don't know what SLAP law is, I'll just read what the Middle Tennessee State University says a SLAP law is. A SLAP suit, or strategic lawsuit against public participation, is a civil claim filed against an individual or an organization arising out of that party's speech or communication to the government about an issue of public concern. At the heart of the SLAP suit is the petition clause of the First Amendment. It says SLAP was coined to recognize lawsuits filed to silence criticism. Well, here's the thing about SLAP laws then. If it's about criticism, especially criticism of the government, let's say, it's not a criticism to say that somebody is abusive. That's an accusation. Okay, so when you say that somebody abused you, you're making a statement of fact. That's not an opinion. That's a statement of fact. I should have the ability to dispute statements of fact. If you say I did something that I did not do, I take you to court and force you to prove it. There's nothing wrong with that. See, this is what I mean by when we deal with these situations. And as a man, what options do you have to defend yourself? Because how do you prove that this is all just made up, it's a lie, or whatever? Because if you file a lawsuit, you are trying to intimidate them. If you say, no, it didn't happen, you're gaslighting them, you're lying. Of course, you're going to say that didn't happen or whatever. At what point do we allow people to defend themselves? Or are you not allowed to have a defense? To me, if you file a lawsuit against somebody, you intend to prove them wrong. That's the thing. You intend to prove or to make them prove that it happened. To me, that seems like a logical thing to do. They continue, a slap suit may look like a civil lawsuit for defamation, nuisance, interference with contract, interference with economic advantage, or invasion of privacy, but its purpose is different. About this purpose, Judge J. Nicholas Colabella wrote, short of a gun to the head, a greater threat to the First Amendment expression cannot be imagined. Professors George W. Pring and Penelope Cannon coined the term slap in the 1980s after noting a surge in lawsuits filed to silence public criticism by citizens. Slap suits arise when citizens erect signs on their own property, speak at public meetings, report violations of environmental laws, testify before Congress or state legislatures, or protest publicly, among many other similar acts, thereby prompting a party who claims to be aggrieved by such acts, often developers, merchants, and even public officials, to file a suit. All right, that makes sense. You don't want to be sued by, I don't know, Tyson, because you don't like their chicken, and you go out here and you say Tyson chicken sucks, and then they hit you with a lawsuit. You don't want to deal with that. Okay, sure. But if I can prove that Tyson's chickens or whatever makes people sick, so what if you hit me with a lawsuit? If I got proof on my side and I'm not stating an opinion, I'm stating a fact, brother. That's different. The fact that we have anti-slap lawsuits for individuals, like I cannot file a lawsuit against an individual, seems pretty silly. That prevents people from having their day in court, which to me says it's a violation of that person's rights. If I don't get to have my day in court, you get to say whatever you want about me. That's not right. Like, I know that in the United States we have this First Amendment, but the First Amendment applies to the government. It doesn't apply to individuals. If I go around here saying statements of fact that damage your ability to work, like a sexual harassment suit, sexual harassment statement, a domestic abuse statement, and you make these things public, and then on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and I start losing my job, and I lose a job or my jobs, well, this becomes one of the easiest lawsuits in the world, because one of the difficult things about a lawsuit is trying to figure out how much money did you lose. Well, if you get paid $500 a booking or whatever, and you lost 10 bookings, well, that's what, $5,000. So you cost me $5,000 with your statement of fact. I should be able to sue you to get that money back and to clear my name. But if you say that I can't because that's intimidating or whatever the hell, then I'm out $5,000 because I lost the 10 dates. My reputation is still damaged, and you get to walk away whether it's true or not. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. Does that make sense to you? No. All right. What's my thoughts on MAGA rapper Bryson Gray? I don't really have too many thoughts on him. He manages to do a really good job of going viral with his videos. He does a good job of, making a mockery on of left wing garbage ideas or taking a stand against left wing garbage ideas. He does a good job of that. As a lyricist, he's actually quite decent. I'm actually impressed. Like, am I a fan? Do I sit around and listen to him? No. Am I impressed with the hustle? Yes. I think that he's but I think that the whole MAGA rap thing, again, it comes out of how rap has gotten so demonic and gotten so ridiculous that you start having like Christian rappers and they're on the cusp. I guess you could say Christian rappers, and they're on the outskirts, but they make good patriotic movement, music or whatever. But it's politically minded. It's overtly political. While a lot of rap is not as overtly political, they prefer to make overtly political. Sometimes songs are about straight up about policy. And to me, it's important to the culture war. If you're into the culture war idea, which, by definition, this is a culture war channel. This is actually a culture war day because usually I talk about different subjects on Sundays. There has to be somebody that has to go out there and counteract the amount of brainwashing guys like Kendrick Lamar, are doing. Like, when you see that some of the more popular rappers today are wearing dresses and skirts and painting their fingernails, and they got all type of crazy coloring in their hair, and they got earrings through their nose and tattoos on their face, and then you see it's all over the NBA and it's all over the NFL. That's when I actually appreciate a guy like a Bryson Gray. I appreciate somebody like that when I see that he looks like a normal dude. He doesn't like a freak that fell out of the asshole of some inner city in the United States. He looked like he might have grew up in the hood, maybe slightly suburban, maybe a little bit of Theo Huxtable, but at the same time, it's not one of these just knuckle dragging barbarians. Like I saw this kid. He's a tiny kid too, and he's a rapper. He's like a Satanist or something like that. Well, little Uzi Vert or whatever. And I was just kind of like, where would this little scumbag come from? Like, who would have entertained some shit like that in 1995? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I sit back and you can say that a lot of rap hasn't changed. But then you sit back and you hear some stuff and you're like, bro, nobody would even entertain this 10 years ago. They thought it was a joke. You would have got laughed at. You would have got picked on. Dudes would have dissed you off rip. You'd probably got bullied at the awards. Dude wouldn't have took you seriously at all. And it's goofy. And that's basically what rap is now. It's about as bad as movies. Like, black TV show has deteriorated a lot. I tell people all the time, like, I literally hate rap now. I'm starting to really hate rappers, and I'm really starting to hate a lot of the modern black actors. I gave Creed a pretty good review, Creed 3. I still don't like Jonathan Majors. He's still really effeminate, and that bothers me because it seems like the only actors you see on TV today are effeminate. It's weird. Like, whenever you see an abundance of something that is not normal centered in one place, you have to raise an eyebrow. Like, having one gay dude or one effeminate dude and a bunch of guys, okay. But having mostly effeminate, weird dudes and no real, like, stand up, normal guy in these groups, like, I can't tell you who's like a normal male rapper anymore. I guess J. Cole will be like the most normal in terms of male rappers. You got Kendrick Lamar rapping about trannies and protest songs. You got most of these dudes are either Satanists or they're simps like ASAP Rocky. I'm a big fan of ASAP Rocky. I was anyway, until he started wearing dresses. And look, I excused the perm. All right, when he had a perm, I kind of excused that because Bone had a perm, 8 Ball MJG had a perm, Snoop Dogg had a perm, DJ Quick had a perm. There's plenty of rappers that had perms. Okay, I had a perm. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I had a perm. Ice Cube had a Jerry curl. You know, Eazy-E had a Jerry curl. Dr. Dre had a Jerry curl. It happens. But when he put on a dress, I was like, nah, nope, nope. Perm and a dress. All right, you trying to look like your little sister now. You know. Then he started painting his fingernails. And I was like, yeah, we're going overboard here. I'm not even about to. I'm not going to entertain this stuff. You know. To me, the male rappers became really effeminate and really weird. The female rappers took over, right? So now every female rapper sounds the same. They all look the same. They all rap about the same stuff. They all have the same. Most of them have the same cadence. It was embarrassing. Yeah, Dr. Dre had a Jerry Curl in the 80s. To me, it was I could not support a lot of the young dudes, and I liked ASAP Mob. I thought they were cool. You know, I used to ride around listening to ASAP Ferg, Coke and White Bitches. I like that song, but I was like, nah, it was that was sick. That was sick. 10 years ago, the Migos, Future, and Young Thug took over rap. Yeah, that seemed to be a problem. See, there's nothing wrong inherently with Migos and Future. From what I see, they just regular rap dudes. There's nothing I look at and I see, like, I don't think Future is effeminate. I think that the drug addict rapper, which is not just these guys, but it's hard to say when the drug addict rapper took over. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, he smokes weed. That would be like Bone. But rappers have always done drugs. Like I said, I just tell people all the time, Scarface did an entire album high on cocaine, The Untouchable. He talked about it, I think, in Double XL or The Source. He got high on cocaine and made that album. People always did drugs. But it was never to the point where it became when the lean generation started. So I guess 2004, when people were just openly, when Lil Wayne is openly carrying around cups of purple drink, and rappers started dying because they were drinking that opium. Now we started having guys make suicide raps where they're talking about killing themselves. And look, I know Biggie did it as a gimmick. A couple of other people worked through their depression. But it became like a style where like these dudes would be like 21, talking about their own death, talking about killing themselves. They lived to get high. They were almost never sober. They were never fully, clear thinking. It was just all mess, and that and the labels deciding feminism was the new thing really killed a lot of the artistic merit of rap. Now, I'm not going to diss all female rappers. There was a time where there was MC Lyte. There was a time where, a female rapper like a Shauna or somebody like that had some skill. But not today. Today, most of these rappers, like Ice Spice is one of the worst rappers I've ever heard in my life. Her voice doesn't even carry over the beat. You can't hear nothing she says, really. But she's young. She's thick as peanut butter. She's got a nice skin tone. And in the right gear, she looks amazing. And that's all that matters. Well, how people are listening to her songs on Spotify, beyond me. Because I'm like, where's her voice? And she comes across as being very vapid in terms of she has nothing really to talk about. Nothing really. She's just so empty. And I sit there and I say to myself, like, Was it like this when I was a kid? You know, and I don't know because I was a kid. But going back, thinking about it, was Little Kim like that? Was Trina like that? You know, were the women who did kind of rap about sex and stuff like that, were they empty? Or as empty as these girls are today? Was it all twerking and sticking your tongue out and all this kind of stuff? Like, at what point did that become like all what music is? And I've come to the idea. I think I'm old enough now that if you sell music through your visuals, 9 times out of 10 you just ain't good enough at music. You know, which and there's just so many people now who, I'm working on my new album, but it's all booty shots. It's all, it's like I don't I don't think so. Like, somehow your booty clapping doesn't make your song better. It doesn't make your song catchier. But it became like love and hip hop and all that kind of stuff just took over. And it's a lot of the young boys, a lot of these dudes, they aren't the men that the guys were in the past. A lot of them are very low IQ. That NBA young boy dude, he sounds like he has an IQ of 50, like he never read a book ever. He sounds incredibly unintelligent. And I don't blame him. You know, he grew up in a certain environment, you know, and his focus was probably getting out of that environment. There are some times where you can listen to a young dude and tell he came from the hood. He's one of them. Like, I can, I hear, I think I saw a video of him, and it's like he barely speaks English. And you're like, I don't know, man. Like, this kid is half retarded. But he's the breadwinner of his household. He's doing the best that he can. So you're sitting there like, okay, well, they said the same thing about a lot of the rappers in my era when I was growing up. But you go back and you listen to them, and they could speak, they could think. They were doing a lot of the wrong things, saying some really wrong stuff, but they could think. Ice Cube could think. I don't like Tupac, but Tupac could think. There were some dudes who would be able to put out a song and be able to tell you the idea behind it and be able to actually talk intelligently about it. Like, Waka Flocka has become one of those kind of guys. Like, I thought he was a retard, but he grew up, and I'll be like, oh, okay, so Waka Flocka can actually, put words together. I'm sitting here listening to Waka Flocka talk about economics because he, stopped being ignorant, dumbass rapper and started educating himself on something. Now he's got something to teach people, but he ain't got no damn songs to put it on, So it's like, we're stuck with that. Sometimes people get smart, but they get smart late, but it's never too late if you're like a Waka Flocka, though. He's a young guy. Let's see. Have I seen the Mahmoud Abdul Haruf documentary on Showtime? He's a Nuggets player that protested the anthem like Kaepernick. No, but I do remember that when that happened. I wasn't really a big basketball fan, but I remember when he did that, he got kicked out of the league, if I remember correctly. The drug addict rapper was 2016 to 2023. Yeah, it was. I think it was right after the drill phase that everybody went through. I was kind of embarrassed, and that's kind of like, I stopped listening to rap before 2016, though. I stopped listening to rap. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it might have been 2012 or something like that, where I just kind of like moved on. It's like I still listen to some rappers. I still listen to a new rap song here and there, depending on who the artist and the producer and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of hoops you got to get through now. Back when I was a really real and true hip hop head, going through live mixtapes and Dat Piff, looking for something to be able to jam to that most other people weren't listening to. I would listen to just about anybody, just about anything, even if I didn't really like where they were coming from. Like, that's kind of when I started getting into like Yo Gotti. You know, even though I didn't like Yo Gotti, I liked like some of his mixtape tracks because I was listening to mixtapes. But I was also like a backpacker, so I was listening to a lot of like Nappy Roots and it was somebody else, a lot of Cunny Linguists or whatever stuff like that. And I would go through and listen to mixtapes, and then I just hit a skid where I was just kind of like, I don't care about this stuff anymore. Like it's so bad, it's so boring, it's becoming less and less intelligent. It's becoming dumber. The music is getting faster, but everybody's getting dumber, you know? And I've always been against sort of that, you know, I think it was, who was it, Master Killer? The dumb are intrigued by the drum, you know? And I'm not going to say we didn't have that. We had Nuck If You Buck. We had the Yin Yang Twins when I was a youngster. We had ignorant, barely literate rappers. We did have that. We had the fun strip club music. We had that. But we also had people who could actually rap, who could actually, you know, think. And now it seems like everybody's, you know, just stepped out of the group home. It's like none of them can think, none of them can rap. They all know just what to say in order to get on the radio, and they just play the game. If it means, you know, getting a perm, putting on a dress, that's what they're gonna do. You know, they responded to incentives, and the incentive is for them to uh, basically sell themselves out, and that's what they've been doing. They've been doing that for a long time. Yep, Lil Wayne, I feel like dying. Was that No Ceilings or one of those dedication mixtapes? I think it was No Ceilings. Redman was on drugs when he did his second album. There's a Dark Side. Remember that? Yeah. You know, rappers have always done drugs. Musicians have always done drugs. You know, every musician. You know, they used to talk about jazz being heroin music because so many jazz players played heroin, but never did so many of them really kind of let the drugs take over and then become the subject matter. Like Gil Scott Heron, because he was a heroin addict too. He made a couple of songs like Angel Dust or, you know, something like that where it'll come through that he was, you know, doing a little extra something. And, you know, Bone did the ecstasy song when they tried ecstasy that time. But it wasn't as bad as it became when the lean stuff happened and then the pills. Because once the lean stuff happened, everybody was like, it's cool to walk around with them cups. And then people was like, oh, I can get a similar reaction by popping some pills. So now let's pop pills. Let's pop Xannies and Perks. And now we got suicidal rappers, you know, guys who are accidentally overdosing. Mac Miller and that kind of shit. You're like, oh boy, you know, these dudes are killing themselves. And the girls aren't. That's one thing you could say is the girls are, you know, they're sluts and whores and dish strippers and all that kind of stuff, but they aren't talking about killing themselves. They aren't talking about popping pills and wishing they were dead. I gotta give the girls credit for that, you know. So they can't complain. At least they want to live. Shit. The female started taking over rap recently, like 2019. Yeah. Have you watched any New Generation era shows? I was watching Superstars right before I started this. I watched SummerSlam yesterday. Yeah, you was in the Discord when I was talking about SummerSlam. But I've been watching Superstars, and I watched Superstars up till the show, then I watched the show. Superstars is becoming the B show. Like I'm trying to figure out when Superstars became the B show, and it's getting dangerously close to Superstars being the B show in like late '94, because it's like almost Survivor Series time now, and I'm watching it, and they're showing more and more clips of things that happened on Raw. And they're showing like whole segments of things that happened on Raw. So it's becoming more and more the B show. But Superstars was the A show for a long time. Mongo, what's up? Here's the thing. Music was never designed to make you smart. It was designed to make you dumb. This is an era of the ignorant where social media likes it more important? Well, to say that music wasn't designed to make you smart, it's supposed to be artistic and challenging, let's say. You're supposed to be able to consume music the way you would consume a picture. Like if you go to a museum and you look at a picture, you look at like the Mona Lisa, there's a lot of bits and pieces there for you to appreciate. Not just the picture itself, but the brush strokes, the strokes of the brush, the colors that was chosen and why, that kind of stuff. Music, you would listen for not just the rhythm, the groove, the beat, the lyrics, how are the lyrics delivered, etc. Can you write a song? Songwriting, was very different. Songwriting went out the window with the mixtape rapper. Now I don't need to write songs anymore. I can come up with a hook, but I don't need to write a song anymore. I'm a mixtape rapper. I just put on somebody else's beat and I rap. But then it became, okay, well, I'm a mixtape rapper, but I'm gonna rap over my own beats. But I'm still not gonna put any songcraft into it. So now the song doesn't tell a story anymore. The song really doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end anymore. The verses don't build on each other. It's just basically, I'm going to spit nonsense for 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And then there it is. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. But music is meant to make you think. At every level. You should be, like when you go back and you listen to like Prince or Michael Jackson, you like the song because you might like the lyrics. But you might also like the song because the bass underneath that catches you. Like Get on the Floor by Michael Jackson. Great bass line. Excellent bass line. It'll catch you and drag you along. You might like the concept or the content of a song. Like Prince Diamonds and Pearls. If I was to give you diamonds and pearls, you know, but all I can do is offer you my love. That there's something about that makes you think. It's challenging. But even the singers today, all they sing about is sex. They don't sing about anything with any type of complexity to it. It's all just, cheating music, banging these hoes, fucking these niggas, and stealing their dough or whatever. It's like everything is so what they call low vibrational. You're not going to get yourself in a good mind state listening to that stuff. You're just not. And sometimes you just want to sit down and groove. Sometimes you want to be in the club. There has to be music for all of that. But it's an abundance of throwaway, useless rap songs now that probably won't matter in 2 years. That's all over TikTok and all over Twitter. And that stuff is too much, And now because of YouTube and Instagram and all that, you don't need a label to be a rapper anymore. You can just dump anything on the internet. That's the SoundCloud era, I'm just gonna dump my Fruity Loops nonsense that I made in my room upstairs. I'm just gonna dump it on the internet, and they do it. So there's no filter, and the no filter, what you would think would make the business somewhat better, because it would make some people who actually can rap actually do have something to say. It would give them an opportunity, but it doesn't. It just drowns them out in a lot of the other quote unquote low vibrational, ignorant nigga shit. It's very unfortunate. Have I ever heard of the Jungle Brothers? I have. NBA Youngboy has a good ear for beats. I'll say that. Here's the thing. Most of these dudes have a good ear for beats because that's all they listen to. They don't listen to. They don't know how to write songs. They don't know how to write lyrics because they never thought about that. It's all about, does the beat catch my ear? That's it. And so no wonder a lot of these guys are really good at picking beats, because that's all they've ever listened to. All they ever do is listen to beats. They don't listen to lyrics. They don't care about lyrics. I forget who it was that says I spent all day on these damn lyrics. You need to listen to these lyrics. I forget I forgot who it was from the like the 90s or whatever. Who I'm pretty sure it was a female rapper. Was it Left Eye? Who said she spends a lot of time on lyrics and then got mad because she found out people don't listen to lyrics. I forget who it was, but somebody was like, "Look, I spend all day on lyrics, and y'all don't listen to lyrics." Lauren Hill says, "For all my logic and my theory, I'll throw in a motherfucker so all you ignorant niggas hear me." So, because people don't listen to lyrics. So, and that's part of your job. If you're a rapper, lyrics are your job. You don't make the beat, so lyrics are your job. That's the part of the story that you create. But then you have somebody else write your hooks for you. Somebody else puts everything together. You become essentially a creation of the label. Somebody else wrote the song, or maybe even came up with the concept for the song. You didn't do nothing but lay down your verse, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, the hit was mine." It's like, no, you can't think, and so I don't believe you even made this. And then you find out that some other guy who wasn't marketable wrote it, and that happens with R&B singers too. Beyonce taking credit for songs that other people wrote. How about that? Bradley Gamble feels the same way about rock music post 2003. Yeah, it's kind of, when I listen to rock, it's mostly 90s and 80s, maybe even before that. Like I like some 60s rock too. It's pretty cool. Najee Savage, I'm in my 20s and I agree with you. Too many people can't articulate their thoughts anymore. Part of it is how terrible our education system is. Part of it is the people who are getting on stage and being given a platform. They're puppets. And I hate to be like one of those conspiracy theorists that think that everybody's a hand-picked puppet of the state or something like that. But when you put people out there that can't think, you get that sort of response. People who have no self-control, people who have like Webby or Weeby, or the New Orleans rapper that was like sexually harassed Free on 106 & Park. Like that dude couldn't think. He was an oversexed, like early 20 something. He probably on drugs. He couldn't think. So they put this dude on TV and look at how he behaved. He ended up getting banned from 106 & Park, and pretty much that killed his career. And people were sort of, at the time, people were more so on his side. Like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. But then you realize, you're like, yo, little homie was out of pocket and he can't think. His brain is mush. Too much weed, too much drink, no self-control. He's oversexed. He thinks about sex, raps about sex literally all the time. Where does decorum come in? Where does order come in? It doesn't. He's been living a debaucherous life because he's a local celebrity and every young girl that he probably ever met throws herself at him. He finally gets just a little bit of a little bit of a challenge, and he didn't know what to do with himself. So it's sad. Yeah, Rhapsody is pretty good. Rhapsody is pretty good. What was the A show in the Hogan era? I think it was Wrestling Challenge. Superstars of Wrestling was on, but I think Wrestling Challenge was like the A show of the 80s WWF. Because that's the Wrestling Challenge, I think, was the show where the snake bite happened. Dude says all music is about sex. No, it is not. Actually, a very small subsection of music is actually about sex. R&B and hip hop is about sex. Most other music is instrumental. Like music with lyrics is actually the minority amount of music that's ever been made. Most music for all time never had any damn lyrics. It was all either drums or strings or orchestras or whatever. When you start adding lyrics to it, you know, the lyrics have to say something, have to be about something. And for the last 30 years, sex has been just it. It used to be love, relationships, stuff like that. Even if it was quote unquote about sex, it was subtle, you know? Like, I'm trying to give you a good example of like a song from like the 60s. Inside My Love. Um, uh, I forget who sung it. Minnie Riperton, I think it was. She was talking about sex, being inside her love, being inside of her vagina. But it wasn't like, I want you to fuck me. It's like that stuff wasn't normal at the time. You know, the pornographic lyrics, that stuff was never normal. It was always an aberration. Like you can listen to some dirty blues. Dirty blues used to be vulgar. You know, the candy liquor, that kind of stuff. But that wasn't normal. That was the outskirts of that was like having a Playboy magazine in your in your room or something like that. You giggled as you listened to like Candy Liquor or something like that. You didn't. It wasn't like 90% of the songs on the radio was Candy Liquor. You know, that's a recent thing. It's very recent. R&B is dead and nobody cares. R&B died when they started rapping and they started putting rap beats all over it. When when there was no church between R&B and rap, it was over because everything just became rap. It just all became. You had R&B singers rapping, and then you had rappers all over the album. You could blame R. Kelly for this, even though I think it probably happened before him. He really just kind of blew the doors down because he started doing albums with tons of rappers. He even did like a duo album with Jay-Z. He would put out an album, I think the R had tons of rappers on it, you know, and you would just be like, there's no difference. He would have track masters do beats on his album and stuff. There's no difference between the R&B guys started doing rap songs because dudes wanted to have crossover tracks. So you had started to have like Timbaland, who was an R&B guy for a long time, started doing rap songs because people wanted to have a certain bounce to the music or whatever. And that's a good thing for him. It was a bad thing for the genre because now the genre is melded with another genre. And now there's no real difference between the two. And it's very unfortunate because I like certain genres. I never was really a big fan of the R&B genre. I was more of a let's listen to some soul music kind of guy. But soul music got co-opted too. Soul music went out in the 80s. That's kind of what happened to that. Then they all became like synth melodies and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, R&B is done. Neo wrote a lot of hits for Rihanna and Beyonce. Well, good for him. Considering I don't like that guy. Rock went downhill with grunge, and then mixing it with rap rock music peaked in the 80s. Yeah, rap rock. Well, rap rock made a nice little comeback in the early 2000s, like Limp Bizkit, and then you had Linkin Park, who had a rapper in the group. So in the early 2000s, the rap rock thing made a comeback. It was a thing in the 80s when Run DMC and Aerosmith, but then it went away for a while because black people didn't listen to rap rock music. And then it made a monstrous comeback. And you know, people. I talk to a lot of people and a lot of different people, and they have different opinions. There was some. It offended me at first as I was listening to some. I forget who the commentator was, but they really got upset that rap music took over and pretty much kicked rock music out of the national spotlight. To them, it felt like black people had taken over the radio, and they were really kind of offended by that. And it offended me at first until I really thought about what he was saying. And that he was saying, like, you can't get, you know, a good rock song on the radio anymore. You know, like there are no huge rock bands anymore. Like there used to be rock bands that, you know, that were just the biggest thing in the music business. It used to be like a rock band. That's not the case anymore. Now the biggest things in music are either R&B singers or rappers, not rock bands. And I can't tell you a recent rock band that's any good. Like back when I was a kid, even if I didn't want to hear rock music, I still stumbled into like Green Day or Radiohead or Metallica, even though Metallica had been out for a long time, or Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that. You know, today you can go months without hearing a new rock record, without knowing. You have to go actively go out and look for it. You know, like they created radio stations specifically for rap, R&B, and soul music because the regular, quote unquote, regular radio stations wouldn't play it. So there would be urban radio stations. But now there are no urban radio stations because the rap music has merged fully with the mainstream. So now there's no place for them to play rock except for these small underground rock stations. And that's just too bad. That's real too bad. AJ3, did you see the clip of the conservative lady who wrote a book about wokeness and got stumbled on her words trying to define it in an interview? Yes, I did see that, and it was cringe. It was cringe, and it's one of those things where you put people on the spot and they can't think. You know, like, because you have to think in sound bites. So when you're in an interview and you're on television and somebody tells you to define a word, for starters, they're about to argue about your definition. So you should understand that from the beginning. Whatever definition you're about to give, they're about to argue with you about it. But when you talk about something like wokeness, because it's been used to apply to pretty much everything, having a hard and fast definition of what wokeness is difficult. Having a definition of wokeness that she, meaning her opponent, is going to agree with is going to be even more difficult because she's not going to have one. Just like when it comes to certain terms that the other side uses, you know, racist. You sit down and say, okay, what is racism? What is that? Because they'll say anything and everything. They'll say that, you know, pillows or whatever is racist. And you're like, how can, because your definition of racist means that it's a person or, you know, the government or some kind of institution actively doing something. But no, that's not what racism is to them. So then once you realize you're dealing with an academic, that's the first thing. Academics, what they do in every paper is if they're going to use a word like wokeness, they want to define it. And they will spend, sometimes if you've ever been in college, or especially if you've ever been in like a master's degree program, you'll see how many people spend so much time arguing over definitions. What the definition of a word is. They will argue about the definition of that word to the point where literally it's exhausting. No definition you give will be an accepted definition. It's just your personal definition, which is what she asked for, which means she could have said anything. So the fact that she got put on the spot, she couldn't come up with anything, made her look dumb. Wokeness is essentially weaponized political correctness. All right. It is that you have to be aware, hyper aware, to every single act or every single division possible. You know, every single thing that could possibly be offensive, you have to be made aware of it. Before wokeness came along, nobody talked about Dumbo being racist. Nobody talked about Dr. Seuss being racist. People say those things were offensive. They never said they were racist. And they certainly weren't banning or taking those things down or erasing them or anything. They were saying things like, you know, hey, they use some language, some insensitive language or whatever. They weren't calling that stuff racist and attacking it and trying to tear it down. And they weren't doing that. That's an outcome of the woke agenda. The woke agenda has decided that there's a certain things like Captain America being pro-America is a problem. That's wokeness for you. Because what the hell will be wrong about an American liking America? Well, the woke agenda doesn't like America. They want to critique America. That's what wokeness is all about. It's Marxism. So you have to be hyper aware of every possible division. Who is the oppressed class? Who's the oppressor and who's the oppressed in every single situation. And every single situation is going to have a different oppressor and oppressed. And then the wokeness is going to take the side of whoever's the oppressed group in that particular point in time. That means if a teacher says something in a classroom, well, the teacher is the oppressor because they have more power. So power to the students. The students, whatever the students want is right. Even if the students are stupid and don't know anything. The same can be said about workers, women, black people, gays, trannies, it doesn't matter. They don't care. Wokeness always takes the side of the oppressed, always. And sometimes reflexively so, to the point where you're not even supposed to think about it. You're arguing with a gay man, the gay man is right. Especially if the subject is homosexuality, then he's certainly right. Because he has lived experience and all this other made-up mumbo-jumbo to talk about. That's what wokeness is. But I can understand that you might not be able to think about that and be able to explain it in 30 seconds. Because the moment she gives any kind of definition, it's going to get attacked. She's going to have to defend it. And it was going to look bad for her anyway. You know, that's why the TV interview is dead. I don't even understand why conservatives continue to do these TV debates. If you're going to do a debate, you need to do a long form debate where you have more time to flesh out your thoughts. See, the Donald Trump thing, when that started to really take over, was when YouTube started letting you do longer videos. You know, you have more time to plot out your ideas, to talk things out. You didn't have to speak in a bumper sticker. Almost all left-wing causes can be settled on bumper stickers. Very few right-wing ideas can be labeled bumper sticker ideas. Support the troops. That's a right-wing idea. It's a bumper sticker. That's it. Support the troops. Support the troops to do what? You know, we don't have to get that far. Just support the troops. Put on a bumper sticker. But you put trans rights or human rights, bumper sticker. Black Lives Matter, bumper sticker. You don't have to think about that stuff anymore. You just say, this is what it means. And in a longer form conversation, however, and you have to flesh out what you mean by trans rights or human rights or Black Lives Matter. These ideas tend to get chipped away and they fall apart the longer that you go and the more challenges that people put up to it. But that typically happens with any argument, especially if you're up against a skilled debater. You know, your argument will start to have, chips in it. But a lot of the ideas that come from the wokeness, quote unquote, they fall apart almost immediately. Because the number one part of problematizing a thing is for it to be a problem. And when you're one of the first things I learned in college, I took a social problems class, is that unless it truly affects you, it's not really a problem. You know, Dr. Seuss wrote some negative characterizations of Chinese people in a book. Has never stopped any Chinese person from being successful. It's not a problem. Why are we even talking about this? Because the woke people want to talk about it. That's it. You know, Looney Tunes created some black characters or whatever that were kind of Sambo characters. I think that was, or was it Disney? It was one of the, maybe even both. Popeye also, I think, did some stuff similar to that. Never stopped any black person from doing anything. You know, black people can still work on Popeye. They can still work at Disney. They can still work at Looney Tunes. Never stopped them from doing anything. Who cares? That was in the 1930s and the 1940s. Your grandma probably cares. But if you're 25, why do you give a shit? You know, it's not a problem. Problems actually affect your life. So when someone says we're going to problematize something, the first thing we want to realize is unless it affects your life actually, it's not really a problem. It's more of an annoyance. It's a nuisance. That's the thing about wokeness in its totality. It doesn't really affect you until it actually affects you. You lose your job, it's a problem. If they're just making videos and saying stupid things on Twitter, it's annoying, but it's not really a problem. You know, like rap music used to be an annoyance for like our parents. It was loud, noisy. What the hell are they saying? They're cussing too much. Not a problem. Once rap started really influencing people's behavior, how they look, what they're doing to themselves, people going out getting BBLs, guys getting tattoos on their face and, you know, rings through their nose, you know, all that kind of stuff. Now it's becoming a problem. Once it starts affecting people, having a real effect in reality, it's a problem. When it was just something you don't like, well, then that's just too bad. Drag queens always existed. Drag queens were never a problem. RuPaul had a TV show in the 90s. Nobody protested RuPaul's TV show in the 90s. Nobody cared. People laughed at Wanda. They laughed at Shanae. They went and saw Mrs. Doubtfire. They went and saw Big Mama's house and all this kind of stuff. They went along with it. When did drag queens become a problem? When it actually started affecting people. When they actively went into these schools and these libraries and stuff like that, people got mad. Now it's a problem. Now it's starting to affect us. Girls dressing like boys, boys dressing like girls, never a problem. Studs always existed. I used to know studs. Young ladies who would bro and my nigga this and yada yada. They knew they were girls. There was never a question whether they thought they didn't think they were boys. They knew they were girls. It didn't become a problem until it became they're trans. They're not. They're girls. They're masculinized girls. It's not that hard. It becomes a problem once they start trying to make language fit that situation. They want to change everything. Nobody ever had a problem with studs. Some guys may have felt intimidated by them because they didn't like them. They just didn't like that they were gay or whatever. But most dudes didn't really have a problem with studs. You know, when I was growing up, if there was a stud around, she was just hung out. I went to a job corps with a couple of studs. You know, they had the Queen Latifah cornrows from Set It Off. You know, they talked just like you and me. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to beat them up. These silly movies of like where people out here raping studs. Like, come on, man. Nobody did that. She dressed like a boy. Who the hell? You wouldn't even get hard. She dressed like a boy. You at some point you would kind of factor her in as one of the boys. In a way, of course. Not completely. But she wasn't feminized. She wasn't feminine. She wasn't interesting in that way. Nobody had a problem with it. Now, the opposite, boys dressing like girls, okay. That's always going to be a problem. All right. That's always going to be something that wasn't that accepted. But people knew trannies existed. They didn't care. They made fun of you if you got caught with a tranny. I think Eddie Murphy got caught with a tranny. There was another singer. His name is right on the tip of my tongue. Not Otis Redding. Who was it? Another Love TKO. That guy. He got caught with a tranny. Okay, you had boy sex with a guy in a dress. They just called you gay and they moved on. Maybe they made fun of you for it, but the language wasn't that we had to call a tranny a girl. Why would I do that? Why would I have to do that? When that stuff started happening, it became a problem. So whenever somebody starts talking about social problems or things like that, who is it actually affected? Who is it affecting? If it's not coming with any type of force behind it, who cares? The guy who won't wear the pride jersey, the hockey player who won't wear the pride jersey, he doesn't want to be a billboard for the gay agenda. Why do they care? Okay? Why do they care? Why does it have to be 100% compliance? You don't even get 100% compliance in the military. You don't get 100% compliance anywhere, under any circumstances. People are not robots. They cannot be controlled that way. You may get a lot of people who say, you know what, I don't care. I'll put the shirt on. It's not that big of a deal. You might somebody say, I got a gay brother. I'll put the shirt on because I truly do support. Somebody else might just be like, you know what, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Give me the shirt. I don't care. But the guy who's actively like, nah, I'm not wearing the shirt. All of a sudden, okay, it's a problem. What? Who is it affecting? That's what I want to know. Who's hurt by that? Nobody. So why is it a problem? It's a problem because all people care about is power. You know, like back when I was a Christian, I didn't care about people who weren't Christians. I didn't really care about things that were anti-Christian. I have been more sensitive to things that are anti-Christian since I became an agnostic than I did when I was before. You know, because I've noticed that the United States don't have a problem dissing Jesus, Christ, and all that kind of stuff. They don't have a problem with that. Muhammad, pretty much off limits. Okay, you think the United States is a Muslim country because they will vehemently defend Muhammad. You know, you can't make any jokes about Allah. You know, can't do it. And I just became more aware of that kind of thing. But to be quite honest, you have to ask the question like, if it's a problem, who is it affecting? And too many times, things that are labeled problems in our society don't really affect that many people. Or it affects a fictional group of people like the LGBT community. That's not a real community. Community means people who live together. You know, like people who if it rains in their neighborhood. Like if your community flooded, that means you, your neighbor, the guy across the street, the guy 2 blocks over, we're all affected. When my power went out, the power went out on this entire block. My community was literally affected. Okay? That's a community. It's a physical, from here to here is a community. That's a neighborhood. It's a block. Communities are, as the leftists use them, is idiots online. I'm talking to people on Twitter. All of a sudden, that's the LGBT community. Like, what? Where is it? It's one idiot with a rainbow flag in his in his profile. It's not a community. Even if it was 4 of them, it's not a community. They don't know each other. At least you would know each other in a community. It's not even a social club. It's 5 or 6 people. It's bizarre that that's what we come to. And something that is a real community, like a church. Well, you can offend them all day. That's a real community. People really come together for a church, for mass or whatever. You can offend them all day. Who cares? But a made up online community of 3 or 4 people, well, can't offend them. Like what? Taking offense for people who don't even know what they should be offended about. Like I've been black 38 years, man. White people out here getting offended about stuff I don't know anything about. This is offensive to black people. I'm like, bruh, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't care about that. I got real problems. I got real issues. I don't care about, there not being a black Spider-Man. I don't give a damn. Like, who cares about that shit? That's not a problem. It's not a real problem. That's a made-up monkey shit problem. I'm cussing a lot. This thing is going to get demonetized. I don't care. I talked a lot. Teddy Pendergrass. Yes, that's exactly who it was. That's sick. Ooh, that was bad. I remember asking my mom if Luther Vandross was gay, right? And I just remember that for her, there wasn't no question. She knew he was gay. She didn't care. You're talking about somebody who was in their 40s. My dad knew that Luther Vandross was gay. He didn't care. If he liked his music, he didn't care if he was gay. Same thing with Teddy Pendergrass. My mama told me Teddy Pendergrass was the one who did that. I was like, oh, wow. She was like, I don't care. I listen to his music. Nobody ever cared. It becomes a thing when people want to push the issue. You know, WG Phil, the alphabet is erasing tomboys. Imagine if a female wrestler today was born in this generation, where if you have boy interest, they will automatically label you as trans. Yeah, they do that all the time now. You know, boys who are more interested in people than things, typically they're going to be a homosexual. And for some reason, they're going to end up being, because there are male brains and female brains. I know people seem to think that's not a real thing. It is. But boys who have feminized brains, they typically end up being as homosexuals. And there was nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a guy who's into gossip and people and stuff like that. Nobody cares, man. Nobody's ever cared. But now it become a big thing where there's no such thing as a female brain. It's like, well, what are the chemicals you're taking? What is it supposed to do? You know, like your brain is literally inside of a jar that's called your skull, pickling in, chemicals. Those chemicals have an effect on your brain. If you change the chemicals in your brain, you change your brain. So if you're taking testosterone, even if you're a male, you're taking testosterone, is going to affect your brain. That's why when a man takes steroids, which is testosterone, it makes them more aggressive, right? When girls start taking testosterone, it makes them more aggressive. So when you start saying, hey, why are these black girls out here getting into fights all the time? Why are they so damn aggressive? Then you figure out, oh my God, black girls have elevated levels of testosterone. Why is that? Well, probably because they're taking birth control pills when they're 13. So now they're 14, they built like a linebacker, and they're fighting in Walmart all the time. Oh, well, that explains a lot. You know, even I remember. I think I asked a couple of girls about that. I always ask girls, how long they start taking birth control pills, because I've seen girls just get bulky, and you're like, why is she so big? Well, she started taking birth control pills when she was really young. She eats flaming hot Cheetos for breakfast, so now she's fat, and she's been taking, birth control pills that has a certain level of testosterone in it. It's the testosterone in birth control pills that prevents them from getting pregnant. So, and it makes you aggressive, because that's what testosterone does. That's why boys are more aggressive than girls. It makes sense to me. Some people don't see it that way. So, like, okay, so why are trans people taking testosterone or estrogen? They want to do that because they want to change their brain. They want their brain or their body to fit what their brain is thinking. You can change the chemicals in your brain by adding more estrogen to your body. You can do that. We can do that. That's why the trans thing comes with technology, the surgeries, the pills, all that kind of stuff. It ain't about natural, nothing natural about it. Outside of, maybe you're a boy born with more estrogen than normal. You're going to have a feminized brain, probably going to be a homosexual. No big deal. You're not a girl, okay? You're just an effeminate male. You might be small. You might even grow breasts, because who knows how much estrogen you have in your body. You're still a boy. You're probably still going to grow a beard. You're going to grow hair on your chest, hair on your balls. You're going to go through puberty. Voice going to get deeper. All of it's going to stay the same, But human biology is, they say it's complex. And it's only complex in so much that so many things can go wrong. You're no more complex than a tiger or a lion or a gorilla. Things can go wrong. Female lions can grow a mane. If their testosterone levels are off, it can happen. We can explain mistakes in nature. It's not that big of a damn deal. It's only a problem until people start wanting to put force behind it. Leave people alone, and people will sort themselves out the way that they want to. People will be able to find each other. They'll get along a lot better if you stop trying to force it. There was a book that I bought it, but I didn't read it. I think I might have read the first I may have read the preface. But I think the idea about it was, why are liberal areas far more segregated than conservative areas? I forget the reason why. I don't have the book anymore either. But I think what it is was the hyper obsession with the differences. Like in the South, however, blacks and whites have been living together for a long time. So you will see black people who will like support the Confederacy because they learned, the history of the Confederate flag the same as the white guys. So they view it the same as the white people who are down there. Therefore, they are not offended by the Confederate flag. They don't have a problem with it. They don't care. Meanwhile, people in the Midwest, people in the up north, they're offended by the Confederate flag because they learned a different version of Confederate history. So it's pretty silly. Where do I begin? It says, out of Batista and John Cena, who would have got over more in the Attitude Era? Probably Batista. He was big. He was jacked. He had swag. Cena could talk, though. Batista's kind of weak on the mic. But Cena could talk. He could probably talk himself to be more over. Do I think MJF could work in WWE? A couple of people I know think he only over because he allowed to push the envelope and curse. Well, I'm not so sure he's going to be able to curse much anymore. Now they're starting to pass out fines in AEW for cursing. I guess because guys didn't listen when they told them not to do that. MJF does have crutches, but he's talented. He speaks with passion. You believe that he believes what he's saying. The only thing is he's small. He's in shape. He can work. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be able to work in WWE. He's going to be able to do the exact same thing in front of a larger audience, and it's going to work. With the right booking, only problem is everybody's going to be so much bigger than he is. It's going to be a lot of a push to push him into being a manager. He'd probably make a ton of money as a manager, to be quite honest. But he's a pretty good wrestler, man. It's just, and probably if I start working with lifts, do it now. Top Dog, do you think the anti-hero has completely overtaken the traditional babyface? No, because look at Cody. Cody's a traditional babyface right now. Sami Zayn, pure babyface right now. Bryan Danielson was a pure babyface in AEW. The problem that you have with the anti-hero is the audience is pushing for that. But if you have a strong enough heel, you need a pure babyface. Part of the problem with the anti-hero situation was you had weak heels. Steve Austin didn't have weak heel. He was fighting Vince McMahon. But you need to have heels. When you have a really strong heel, they really get over against a pure babyface. And a pure babyface can really get over against a pure heel. When everybody's out there trying to quote unquote entertain each other, you're gonna get a mixed bag. Absolutely mixed bag. Do you think Austin Theory should just destroy the United States title since it doesn't mean anything? I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say it because I wouldn't say it doesn't mean anything. If he's going to destroy it, he should do it because for a personal reason. I think he should if you're going to destroy something, it should be for a personal reason. Let's say Cena beats him for it, and then he takes it and starts bashing it with a hammer, a la Mr. Perfect when he took the belt from Hulk Hogan and started bashing it with a hammer. Then I would say do it then. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Then we have to force Cena to bring back the spinner belt or something like that. That'd be a nice little hook. It'll actually get him over. Like if I can't have it, nobody can. He runs it over with his car or something like that. That would be. It's not a bad angle. It's bad reasoning. Like the U.S. belt means a lot. Who wins the Money in the Bank this year? That's a good question. Sammy or Jey Uso? If I have the choice between one of those two, I would probably go Sami Zayn because hopefully Well, it depends. Like, what's happening in August, July, or whatever? Is Sammy still super over at that time? If so, then yeah. Is he still a tag team champion? If so, then no. Then maybe you would go with Jay. I'm very interested in who's going to win the Money in the Bank, and some tells me it's probably going to be somebody we're not going to like. Hopefully, it's not Johnny Gargano or something like that. The women's Money in the Bank is probably going to be just as fucked. After it was a slam dunk when it came to the Royal Rumble and Triple H because he didn't go off the board. He went directly with what makes sense: Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes. He didn't try to do too much. Money in the Bank is going to be a little bit different. King of the Ring is going to be different too because I'm thinking he's going to actually try to put something on the King of the Ring tournament. What went wrong with the NWO? The most out of Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. Oh, okay, who was the worst babyface? Okay, let's take these one at a time. The NWO got too big and it lost focus. I mean, I've said that 100 times. The NWO just bloated to like 10 people, and then it bloated even more and became like half the roster. You can't have that. It makes no sense. You can't have half the roster on one side, half the roster on the other side. Because now you're taking the NWO. When the NWO theme song plays, you don't know what bum's gonna fall out of there. It's the NWO theme song plays, and you're thinking about that. Oh, I'm about to watch this, and no, it's Vincent or Scott Norton. You're like, oh hell, I'm not watching this. I don't care if it's NWO. I'm not watching that. He sucks. When if you have the NWO theme song and it's like a small number of people that it could possibly be, and they're all elite and they're all good, and you care about all of them, then it matters. But when that song plays and the Wolfpack plays and fucking Disco Inferno come out, you're like, man, why should I care about this, really? It says if Theory chooses to change his mind against wrestling John Cena for the U.S. title, like when Naito destroyed the Intercontinental title in Japan. Well, Naito destroyed the Intercontinental title by like not respecting it, like throwing it around and shit. I wouldn't go that route because Austin Theory is not that over. I think basically putting the U.S. belt on the line basically says that Theory is going to win. I think that's what it says. I wouldn't do that because putting the belt on Cena is a mistake. Maybe having again, you can always have Cena win the belt and then vacate it by saying he doesn't want it, he can't defend it, just that Austin Theory doesn't deserve it, and then maybe have Austin Theory work to get it back. Maybe that's what you do. I don't think Austin Theory is ready to win this match. And I think they're gonna. If he wasn't ready to win the Money in the Bank, why is he ready to beat John Cena? I don't know. Like you've done nothing to make him worthy of beating John Cena. He has never. You basically said that he's not good enough to wrestle the top guys in WWE. So why is he now wrestling one of the greatest of all time in WWE terms? It doesn't make any sense. He was scared of Roman Reigns, so he cashed in for the U.S. belt. That's dumb. It was dumb. LA Knight would be Mr. Money in the Bank. How about LA Knight win more than one match? Let's focus on that first. He's coming across like an older version of the Miz. I think he might be younger than Miz. I don't think about it. Was Hogan and Goldberg should have been on pay-per-view? Well, theoretically, yes. The crazy thing is, I think they had a pay-per-view like a couple of days later, but they end up having Goldberg versus Kurt Hennig. I think it was Bash at the Beach. They literally had a pay-per-view like a week or so later, and just dumb. Like but they were doing swerves. They were doing swerve stuff, man. They were just we trying to make Nitro must watch, but it's like you're actually selling pay-per-views though. Like you're not selling Nitro. Nitro can't go anywhere. Like that's the weird thing about Nitro caring about TV ratings is just about beating WWE because they can't go anywhere. They can't leave the network that they're on. They're owned by that company. So raising rather the ratings for Nitro didn't really do anything. They still had problems selling ads. And they got a huge rating out of it, and they won the night. But they missed out on millions and millions of pay-per-view buys. You know, it was really bizarre, that they would do that. What's up, Lord Cosmo? How you doing, man? John XXL or one. I'm sorry. I have a feeling that Theory Cena match will be a squash match. I don't think it'll be a squash. I don't think it's gonna go very long though. I don't think it's gonna be more than 10 minutes. I don't see Cena going in there, punch, 5-knuckle shuffle, then FU pinfall. That sucks. That burns the hell out of Austin Theory. All Cena has to do really is put him over. And by putting him over, what he could do is just sell for him. Go in there, let Austin Theory look good. He pummels Cena for 5 or 6 minutes. Cena makes a big comeback. Locks in the STFU. Austin Theory taps out, or there's some kind of chicanery in the pin where he hits him with a FU, but Austin Theory puts his foot on the ropes. Referee doesn't see it. Cena still wins. Theory complains that he had his foot on the ropes. Yada yada yada, whatever. Why do wrestling fans hate faces like Cena, Hogan? Well, that's because a lot of them have been trained. Well, Hulk Hogan is personal. A lot of them have been trained to hate Hulk Hogan. The dirt sheets saying that he can't wrestle. People saying he busted up the union idea. He's selfish. He refused to put other people over. Creative control. But nobody can argue that there's an electricity to Hogan. That even if you didn't like him, everybody knows his theme song. Everybody had his action figures. There's just something to it. Same thing with Cena. People have been reading the Observer forever, think Cena can't wrestle. But then Cena comes out there and everybody turns into a little kid. Oh my God, Cena's so fun. Oh my God, he's so great. And now the Cena stuff's starting to get a little bit personal too, with the Vince McMahon stuff and the dress and the China stuff. I mean, people are starting to get a little agitated with Cena. It happens. Not everybody's going to be perfect forever. Cena is not under the WWE umbrella as much anymore when it comes to PR. So he's kind of he's making some missteps. But he's at this point where he's bulletproof. There's certain things he can't do, of course, but there's not much he can do that'll damage his career in the wrestling space. It's like The Rock. The Rock makes mistakes too. He hasn't made any ridiculous political mistakes yet, outside of supporting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Outside of that, The Rock pretty much stays in his lane. He says comes off as jealousy. Well, Cena and Hogan and some of those guys, they are kind of attacked as being favored by women and children. And there's an idea that if women and children like something, then it's not cool because it's safe. Which, there is some truth to that. Still, though, I hated seeing it too because I thought that same way. It took me a while to really appreciate him. They had Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone on the pay-per-view. That's true. That Bash at the Beach, I think that was the mixed tag match. So they wanted to have Hogan lose the belt so that the undercard could have a stronger match. Unfortunately, their idea was to put Goldberg against Kurt Hennig. And I love me some Mr. Perfect, but that seemingly came out of nowhere, Like Hogan didn't even get a rematch. You know, it was like, oh yeah, Kurt Hennig, he'll do a great job for Goldberg. Like, come on, fuck out of here. I can understand like maybe not wanting to do the title match at that pay-per-view because you had the Rodman Malone thing, the tag title match. Or was it? Oh no, that I don't know why I wanted to say Jay Leno, but Jay Leno was hog wild. Jay Leno was hog wild. But wait till the next pay-per-view then. Doing it on TV really just he hadn't really ran with the US belt either. Like I think he only had like a couple of defenses of the US belt, and then all of a sudden he was world champion. He had both belts. Like, wow, that was crazy. What do you think were some of the worst swerves in the Monday Night Wars? Oh God, where do we begin? You know, it was me, Austin. It was me all along. I liked it. It was goofy, but it really doesn't make any sense. Like to have, well, actually, it kind of does because it shows that Vince was like a businessman was so ruthless that he arranged the kidnap of his own daughter, which in order to draw out Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it wasn't gonna like. It was an interesting swerve, but I was just kind of like thinking about it. Like it was the first thing that came to my mind. Like it was so unnecessary as a swerve. It literally made no sense. It really didn't need to do that. You know, you really didn't need to do that. Another unnecessary swerve. The WCW swerves is the finish of Starrcade, 97. Was Sting and Hogan, where Sting is pinned, and then somehow Hogan still didn't win. Like we didn't. That was so dumb. I know Russo wasn't there yet, so you can't really blame it on him. But whoever came up with that idea is a bird brain. I know that some of it was Hogan, but you're a bird brain at that point. You ruined. That was an unnecessary swerve. Oh, they're going to lead to the Super Brawl match. Bro, they could have had the Super Brawl match anyway. You didn't need to fuck Sting like that. Like it just didn't work. Lex Luger winning the title, that came out of nowhere. He was only champion for like a week, then they took it from him anyway. Wasn't necessary. Huge pop. But in reality, it fucked over Sting again because Sting didn't get them to beat Hogan and get the huge pop and get the torch and everything, and they gave part of it to Luger. So you're like, okay, I wouldn't have done that. And that became the impetus for people to say that Sami Zayn should have won the title in Elimination Chamber because, just give it right back to him. And people would have been like, no, it wasn't right when they did it that time, I did it for The Rock. That's the worst, clearly. The idea was, of course, to make Rikishi a star. He doesn't have the charisma. He was the wrong guy to put in that position. So swerving it to Triple H was actually a good one, but saying it was Rikishi from the beginning was bad. That was awful. I'm a bad man. I like that song though. The Meltzer bias and voice negatively impacts guys like Reigns and Wyatt. I guess if you aren't a small guy and have personality, Meltzer doesn't like you. Well, we already know how that goes down. That's how it is. Meltzer likes what he likes, man. The closer you are to the Japanese style, the more he likes it. I don't see why that stuff doesn't catch on in the United States, and he knows that. It's not just a WWE thing. Just about every wrestling promotion has tried what he's talking about. None of it has been able to, surpass what WWE is doing. They've been doing it since Vince Senior we have better matches. We put on better matches. And people just kept be like, I don't care about better matches. Personalities, promos, heat, is the angles working? That's what people care about. People don't care if you have better matches. Most people don't know enough about wrestling to be able to gauge whether a wrestling match is good or not. That's how guys can just go out there and punch and kick and punch and kick and punch and kick, and match will be fine. They'll still get just as excited. They'll just stand up and hoot and holler and everything as if you'd have did 100 double wrist locks. They don't give a shit. They don't care. You know. G Coalition Brother says, I was just going to say that Lex Luger Hogan Sting situation sounds very familiar. Yeah, it's the exact same. Look, it happens quite often in the WWE that a WrestleMania season, because 1994, similar situation. Vince wants to push Lex Luger. The fans want Bret Hart, but Yokozuna is champion. So Vince is, for some odd reason, he hasn't made a decision on who's going to win the Royal Rumble. He decides to do a draw. It was dumb. It's like, clearly you chose not Luger when 4 months prior you could have put the belt on Luger if you wanted to, and you didn't. So now that Luger situation should have been handled. We're not doing Luger, all right? Because if you wanted to do Luger, you could have done it. Okay, so you didn't. So they didn't do triple threat matches at the time. They came up with that stupid Yokozuna has to defend the title twice, or the title has to be defended twice situation. And it was goofy. The right guy walked out of WrestleMania with the belt, but it was goofy. It was dumb. Yokozuna is 600 pounds. He's going to wrestle twice. Yeah, of course he's going to lose the second match. He barely got away from the first one. And then they gave a screwball finish to the first one because they had Mr. Perfect Screw Lex Luger out of the title. It was dumb. Like, that whole situation was dumb because Vince was holding on like a rabid dog to Lex Luger and refused to actually shit or get off the pot. That killed Lex Luger's career in WWF. Vince could have put the belt on Luger in SummerSlam 93 and nobody would have cared. It's not like business would have hit the toilet, you know? Maybe International probably would have hit the toilet. But you could have still built up Luger and Bret, could have did their match or whatever. But these things happen where the fans want one thing, the company wants another thing, and they're stuck with this one thing here. They trying to figure out how to get out of it. Usually the garbage triple threat match starts getting everybody out of trouble. Instead of just eliminating somebody from the situation, they want to do the triple threat match, which is a mistake, and it's dumb. How are they better matches if nobody cares? Well, because they're technically better. They're worked better. They may be structured better. More movement, more action. Hogan matches didn't have a lot of action. Hogan basically sold and taunted. But crowd went crazy because that's all they wanted to care. That's all they cared about. They cared about Hulk. They didn't care about whether Hulk was the best fighter in the world. They just want to see Hulk win because they hated his enemies. So that was good. So everybody keeps talking. Like, again, you can go find articles, people saying Bruno sucked. Like Bruno was one of the worst wrestlers in the world. And Vince Sr. was trying to push Bruno when he first got him. People were saying Bruno sucks. And Vince Sr. caved. Sent Bruno around, get him some experience. But once he made his mind up that he was going with Bruno, he went with Bruno, and that was it. And it ended up working out. So you got to make a decision. You can't keep pussyfooting around. Stick to the plan. Don't deviate from the plan. Sometimes deviating from the plan is smart. The Bryan Danielson situation with Batista, you could tell it pissed off Batista. He wasn't happy about it because he wanted to wrestle, I think, Randy Orton at WrestleMania that year. and they ended up doing it on Raw because of Bryan Danielson or whatever. I'm certain that pissed off Batista. He claims it didn't. He claims he didn't mind, but he came back to wrestle Randy Orton and he didn't get it. So he had an attitude. So, but that was the right decision. You know, they did the best. They made the best out of it, but it was the right decision to put the belt back on him. You know, but sometimes the right decision is to stick to your guns because people don't know where you're going with that until you go. You don't know what's going on. WWE Lex or come on, that's not even around the question. Lex Luger in WCW was the same performer, but he wasn't. The presentation in WWE was corny as hell. The Made in America Lex Luger, that was corny. The Narcissist, the way he performed it was very corny. I made a comment in the Discord that when they did the storyline mid 1994 of who sold out to Ted DiBiase, and they swerved us by saying it was Lex Luger, he sold out, and then it turned out it was Tatanka the whole time. And I remember sitting here like I'm watching the show now because I had always seen the show when I was a kid, and I was like, as you watch the reactions Tatanka was getting, nobody disliked that guy. Tatanka was one of the most well-loved wrestlers on the roster. Turning him heel was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. It should have been Luger. If Luger had been with Ted DiBiase, I'm telling you, it would have been essentially similar to Luger in WCW. It would have got him back to where he wanted to be, which is an arrogant heel who is about his body and his money, and that would have been great. I can see Luger and Ted DiBiase right now printing fucking money in '94 if Luger would have sold out to Ted DiBiase and beat the shit out of Tatanka. It would have been great. It would have been great. Instead, they still had the Native American Tatanka, same theme song and everything. And he's just coming out with a mean face. Get the fuck out of here. That's stupid. That's one of those times they shouldn't have did the swerve. Stupid swerve. Dumb swerve. Who's the bigger backstage politician? Oh, that's without a doubt Hogan. Hogan had creative control. Hogan had so much authority that he could get guys hired and fired. Cena could probably get you shit canned, but he couldn't really get anybody a job. Like I never heard Cena getting anybody a job. But Cena clearly has some authority. I mean, he's John Cena. Why wouldn't he have some authority? But he ain't got nothing like Hogan. Hogan was protecting that Hogan brand, baby, without question. He was looking out for the Hulkster. Looking out for number one, the Hulkster was it. Nobody looked out for themselves quite like the Hulkster. And I don't blame him. It's a cutthroat business, bro. Cutthroat as hell. All right. How you guys feeling? I kind of got to use the bathroom. We're almost two hours in. About ready to wrap this up. You got a couple more comments you want to get through? Get them in now. I'm probably going to actually have a plan next week. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to have a plan next week. What would you rank the 4 pillars of WWE 2023? Who are the 4 pillars of WWE in 2023? WWE doesn't really do that stuff. They just kind of have golden boys, chosen ones. A guy that you can clearly see the company getting behind. Braun Breaker is one. Austin Theory is one. It's all about who's going to be the top babyface between those two. I'm guessing Braun, would be the guy. Cena and Bret Hart would have been fun. That would have been fun as hell. Because I think Cena would have worked well with Bret Hart because he worked well with Shawn Michaels. He worked well with Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho, and clearly he could be led. So that was fun. That would have been fun with Bret Hart trying to get the most out of Cena. Can we do WrestleMania watch-alongs? Yeah, we'll do one. We'll probably do one Thursday, depending on if any kind of wrestling news come out. Let's do a WrestleMania watch-along Thursday. Let's do WrestleMania 11. How about that? Either WrestleMania 11 or WrestleMania, not 12. No, I don't watch that hour Iron Man match. Either 11 or 13. Either 11 or 13. Remind me. I'll probably do a poll, and then we'll probably do one of them on Thursday, the other one on Saturday. Not Saturday, but Sunday. That way, I'll have something to do. Braun Breaker, Austin Theory, Carmelo Hayes, and Grayson Waller. Yeah, Grayson Waller should be in that conversation. Carmelo Hayes should too. Yeah, you're right. Those sound like four solid ones. Braun's the youngest of the group, also the least experienced. Grayson Waller is the oldest, best promo of the group. Austin Theory is already on the roster, already getting the spot. Carmelo Hayes, well, it's going to be a tough one for him. It's going to be tough for him. If Bray wasn't fighting Bobby, who would you have him face? That's a good question. Because I've been thinking about who Bobby should face. Now you're saying who should Bray face? And I really don't have an answer to that one. Because usually a character like that is hard to work with. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. I burnt out. I gotta use the bathroom, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna put up a poll in a few minutes. See if we're gonna do WrestleMania 11 or WrestleMania 13 for Thursday. And whichever one wins is the one we'll watch. I want to do a new generation era WrestleMania, but there's only two, and that's 93 and 94. Well, and WrestleMania 11 is the third one. So we'll get to the bottom of it. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.